been a while. I think it's been more than 3 years since I last uploaded a video. I think it's actually been like 3.5 years since I last filmed a video. But lately I've been thinking about making videos again. It is something I used to enjoy. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to make videos in the last couple of years. In this video, I thought I'd talk a little bit about where I've been and what I would like to do with the channel going forward. It's been a while and I do think I've changed a bit in what I want to do. It's still going to be somewhat similar, I think. But yeah, I thought I'd chat a little bit about that. So where have I been all this time? Some lovely people left some comments like asking me where I've been, saying that they enjoyed seeing my videos and they'd like to see more, but unfortunately I didn't read the comments, so it was really nice to see that, but I wasn't unfortunately always able to reply to those comments. But if you were one of those people that send me like messages like that or like wrote comments like that, thank you so much. It was really lovely to see that. Mainly what's been going on was that I had other things in my life that were taking up a lot of priority. Initially in 2020, it was mostly that I was just very busy. I finished my bachelor's because in the first half of the year I was writing my bachelor thesis, so that was taking up a lot of time. And then I was studying for an entry exam for the master's program that I wanted to do, and then in September I started a master's, so 2020 was mostly just a pretty busy year. I did already during that year started to notice that I maybe needed to like change up my hobbies a little bit, because I've always had sort of like very productive hobbies. Like I don't necessarily mean like useful to society or whatever, but more like that my hobbies were very much always focused on some sort of end result, something that could be either good or bad. Like making videos, you're working on this product essentially, and it can be good or bad. And like same with language learning, like the end goal is maybe a little bit less clear, but while I love the language learning community, I do feel like there's very much a focus on being productive and getting the most out of your time, like learning a language as fast as possible. And that's cool too, but that's not really what works for me. I think I just love language learning, and I'm not doing this because I need to be doing this. I am simply doing it for fun, and I want it to stay being fun. But yeah, I think just sort of what I was seeing other people do was also kind of affecting my enjoyment of language learning a little bit. And then there were other hobbies that I had, like even reading, which should very much be something you just do for like either enjoyment or maybe because if you're reading like non-fiction because you want to learn something from it. But even though I tried to make sure that it was something I was doing for fun, I still think somewhere along the line it became about, like when I would read a book, I would be thinking about, oh, what would I say if I would write a review about this or film a video about it. And I just lost a little bit of that enjoyment for reading. So yeah, being very busy in 2020, at some point I just realized I need different hobbies. I need to be doing more things. I was simply focused on like purely enjoyment that have no benefit whatsoever. And one of these things I started to do is make a lot of jigsaw puzzles, which I think is great if you want to do something very relaxing. Because sure, like some people might be able to complete a jigsaw puzzle faster than other people, but I don't really think there's a point, because the end result is going to be exactly the same. You are going to have like a nice image and that's all. Like there's no other purpose to it really. So I think making jigsaw puzzles was really fun. And something else I started to do as well was I started to game a little bit more. I've always games, but I think somewhere during high school I kind of became a little bit stricter with myself, thinking that I shouldn't game except during like summer break or winter break because I'd get distracted from my studies. And I mean, while that's probably true a little bit, I do think it's also like very beneficial to sometimes just do something that's purely for fun and that sort of stuff is important too. So I like made a conscious decision to play more video games, and that was definitely good, I think. But in hindsight, just the fact that I felt the need to focus more on like relaxing hobbies was maybe a sign for what was to come, because in the next year, in 2021, I really wasn't doing well. My mental health was terrible, and it was starting to affect my physical health as well. Eventually, I realized, I think it was like in March, I realized that I wasn't doing good and I couldn't keep going anymore. Essentially, I had a burnout. I It was very strange. Like, it's still difficult to describe to people how it can affect your functioning when people haven't really experienced something like that themselves. Like, how I would suddenly struggle with things that I'd always been able to do. Like, I'd always been at least relatively comfortable speaking English, or like reading at least. As a teen, I felt like it was, even though my English wasn't perfect, I found it much easier to read in English than it was during that time or period of my burnout, which was so strange. Like, I felt like suddenly I was losing all these abilities. Yeah, and also just the ability to focus and to concentrate. Like, I've always had, like, I've never had the best focus, I would say. But it was definitely so much worse. Like, I was struggling a lot with reading. Like, I'd read one page and I would just constantly be staring at the words and trying to make sense of what the words were saying, but it was like words on a page didn't translate to any sort of meaning in my head. It was very, very confusing. By chance, I just happened to watch a documentary about women with autism, and it was just purely out of interest that I watched that video. I wasn't in any way expecting to relate to it, but I did. I related to it a lot more than I thought I would, and I realized, like, also after reading a little bit more, it wasn't just that video, but eventually I realized that it was very likely that I might be autistic. So I ended up going after a diagnosis, and I did indeed get diagnosed with autism. And that's been really helpful in understanding myself just a lot more, because it was always very frustrating to feel like you're sort of failing at life but don't know why, because you like compare yourself to other people, other neurotypical people especially, but when you're not neurotypical, that's just not really fair to yourself. So getting diagnosed was really a good thing. But yeah, that didn't really magically make my burnout go away and like other mental health issues. So it's definitely been a bit of a journey to find the right help. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I currently am where I would like to be, but I am doing a lot better. And I finally finished my master thesis this summer, because that was I started writing my master thesis and then I got a burnout, and that was like in 2021. So it's taken me 2 years to finish it because I just struggled so much with studying. But I did eventually finish it, and even though I'm not quite finished with my masters, I am really happy that I finally was able to yeah, complete something again, and that feels really good. So overall, especially the last 2 years weren't great, but I do want to talk a little bit about one thing in 2021 that did really make me happy. I started a little vegetable garden. My parents have this like plot of land next to their house that wasn't being used for quite some time. They had plans to eventually turn it into a garden, but they just didn't have the time yet. So I asked if it was okay if I started a little vegetable garden there. And I could, and it was so much fun because it used to be this like small field that was covered in bushes and brambles, so it's like almost you couldn't really walk there. It was just like full of bushes, and it was so cool to slowly see it transformed into something that resembled a garden. Like, I think at the end of the year it was still a bit like messy, but it was still so much of an improvement. And it was just so cool to see. And I've definitely found that gardening is incredibly relaxing. I find that it's pretty hard to like focus on your worries when you're just pulling weeds. It's a very relaxing activity. So if you're looking something to do like to relax, I think gardening is definitely a really good option. And it's just so much fun to grow your own food. Like, not everything did really well. I think I only had like one or two beets, and tomatoes were terrible as well, but I grew like carrots and spinach and stilches. I don't know what that's called in English. And potatoes. My parents had never had potatoes in their garden, but I tried it out for the first time and I thought it'd be difficult, but it wasn't actually. It was just a lot of fun, like having. I already had like two-thirds of a meal out of my own garden, like potatoes, which some vegetables. So that was really cool. And it was also just nice because it was like sort of my own little project as a kid. I I'd grown some vegetables a few times, but never on this scale. I never like sort of thinking about a garden plan for the garden in its entirety. So that was really fun. And I think gardening has just been one of those activities that I realized in the last few years that I just find a lot of fun to do. Also hiking. So that's kind of related to my plans going forward for this channel. I used to make videos about books and language learning, and I'll still be making videos like that, but I think I'll also shift my focus a little bit to other things. Like I mentioned, I like gardening, so just like doing stuff with my plans and like hiking trips. I want to focus a little bit more on slow living in my videos, I think, because that's also something I am thinking about in like day-to-day life. Since getting a burnout, I'm trying to live my life a little bit differently. So that's probably something you are going to see in my videos going forward as well, like looking at ways to sort of improve your life, and not just in the sense that you're more productive, but just more healthier, especially in terms of mental health. If you have any sort of specific videos you'd like to see from me, do leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. I think I'll be back soon with a video talking about books I want to read this autumn, because it's pretty much autumn now and it's making me so excited because it's my favorite season. I love autumn. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was nice catching up, and maybe I'll see you in my next video. Bye!